So I recognize some of you here, but a lot of you I don't. So just a show of hands, who knows about the New California movement? Okay, so some of you. We're just starting to get some press. Gateway Pundit has put a couple of mainstream articles out on us. And the interesting thing is a lot of people really don't know about it. And it's been around for about 5 years. So I'm here just to let you know that we are out there. We are working to resolve a lot of what Mike just talked about. We have so much craziness going on in California. What most people don't understand is we have 58 counties in the state of California. The population of California is about 40 million. 20 million of those people are in 3 counties. We have 55 counties basically unrepresented. And that's what we're going to solve. One thing I did want to address is because when people hear that we're trying to split the state, the first thing that comes to their head is, well, you know, we want to secede from the Union. No, it's not like that. Actually, we're using the constitutional model that West Virginia used in the Civil War. It's 100% in the Constitution. We're not doing anything that hasn't already been done. We're using their exact model because there's a precedent for it having been done. And they did exactly what we're talking about. They were disenfranchised, half of the state, because Virginia wanted to secede from the Union. And they didn't want to be part of the United States anymore, and half of the state did. So what constitutionally had to happen is the counties that wanted to stay in the Union had to form a new government, and they had to write a new constitution. They had to get a people's approval, and they took all of that to Congress, and Congress allowed them to come in as a new state. So we're basically doing the same thing. The first premise is that we have been disenfranchised as the people. The People's Compact with the government of California has been broken. They are no longer upholding our wishes. They're not protecting us from invasion. They're allowing an open border. They're not protecting our kids. They're not protecting us. And they're not doing anything for us, really. So First Amendment says we can petition for a redress of grievances. And so for the last 5 years, the 55 counties that are represented in New California State have been going to their county courthouses with grievances. And we've got declarations, and we're reading those on the steps of these courthouses as well as the state capitol. And we've been doing this for years, okay? We have a whole list of these things. And so that's part of that constitutional process. It's like, hey, we have grievances, and you're not redressing them. And that gives the people the right to take charge and do something about that. So part of what the Constitution says we have to do is we have to have a new government. So we have a Senate and we have an Assembly that meets twice a month, and we have 50 plus counties involved in that. So I'm in the Assembly for New California State representing Siskiyou County, and have been for the last 2.5, 3 years. So the other thing that the Constitution requires is that you have conventions. We have had 10 constitutional conventions for the state of New California. And we're having our 11th one this coming May. Like I said, this is not new. We've been doing this. So we've got a Senate, we've got an Assembly, we have a legislature, we have a Constitution that we are going to be finalizing and ratifying at this next convention. We have everything that normal governments have. I'm personally on the Legislative Services Committee, so what I do is go through all of the resolutions that are passed, and we make sure they're formatted correctly, make sure the wording is right, that they read correctly. So I have been heavily involved in the new Constitution, making sure that it reads right, has everything correct in it, all of that stuff. And again, we're going to ratify that this coming May 12th. And so one of the other things that California does not provide their people is a bicameral Republican form of government. Most states don't have one. We don't have one. We have basically a dictatorship. So we are going to provide that. Right, as New California State, we will have a real bicameral Republican form of government. And we're not going to support CRT. We're not going to support abortion. We're not going to support any of that crap. We're not going to support health emergencies that lock people down and take away their rights. And so again, for the last 4 or 5 years, we have been submitting and approving resolutions along those lines. So everything that we need and want in our new state is already in place via resolutions that have been passed by both the Senate and the Assembly. So we're doing it a little bit in reverse of how Virginia did it, because we're setting up everything, putting it all in place beforehand, and when the timing is right, and timing is critical here, because as you can imagine, nothing's going to happen in the biggest, most wealthy state in the union, right, without a fight. And so part of what is going to happen is we're going to negotiate with Old California to do the split, and we're actually going to get their approval, and we're going to have that happen because they're collapsing on themselves. They're bankrupt. They're not able to support anything. They can't do anything. So we're going to end up negotiating with them to take part of their debt, reorganize everything, and we're going to get their approval. The other thing we're going to do is we are going to get our Constitution and everything in front of the Congress in Washington, D.C. Now, we're already in that process. Believe it or not, we sent 2 delegates, one of whom was from Shasta County, Patty Plum, who was instrumental in getting what happened down there done. And she's working with me right now. There you go. So she's in New California, and we sent her and another delegate from L.A. to Washington, D.C. to represent us in the legislature in Washington. And so they filled out all the paperwork, they filled out the proper applications, and they just kind of showed up there and said, hey, we're from, New California State, and you have to acknowledge us. So we're going to send 5 more because we need delegates in the Senate, we need delegates in the House. And so we're in the process of, and it's a long process, obviously. We're trying to do everything exactly constitutionally. They're going to be able to get in there and not vote or anything, but they'll be observers. They'll be official observers. They'll be recognized as delegates from the state of New California. So that's where we are right now. That's probably my 3 minutes. So does anybody have questions I can answer? Sheridan?
Yeah, so will you be governing a territory or an area?
Yes. So here's the thing. We're splitting it by population. 3 counties have 20 million people. That's L.A. County, it's the Bay Area, and it's Sacramento. So they haven't really, the whole territory part of it will be negotiated as part of us getting split via Congress. My estimation is it's going to be L.A. up the coast to San Francisco and over to Sacramento. And everything else is going to be New California State, 55 counties. Orange and San Diego are wanting to be in New California. Yay. Yeah. We have delegates in both those counties. We even have people that are in L.A. County that want to be in, so they've now split that county, so they want part of that county to be rural L.A. County and rural Sacramento County, because there's so many conservatives in those counties, and they're like, we want to be part of New California State. Don't leave us out, So we're allowing some of them in as rural versions.
So, just a brief summary, why did you think state of Jefferson didn't work, or
Okay, I'll tell you real quick.
can you repeat his question?
Why didn't state of Jefferson work?
Or if it didn't work,
All right, well, there was a couple of reasons it didn't. And interestingly, the guy who's running the movement for New California State was a state of Jefferson guy. And so they tried, and I'm not a Jefferson expert, I don't know. My understanding is they were doing a legal process, okay? And it wasn't supported constitutionally, and so it failed. And so he saw that in that movement and thought, oh, crap, this legal thing isn't working. We need to do it the way West Virginia did it, where there's a precedent and where we can just follow what the Constitution allows. And part of what the Constitution states is you can't split a state, and you can't add counties from one state and counties of another state and create a new state. It says right in there you can't do that without legislative approval. So you can't force it. It has to be approved.
So Maine and, didn't Maine and Massachusetts separate? Nothing to do with the last question. Maine and
I have no idea.
I heard they split too.
Yeah, there was a lot of different ways. You know, if you look up how California came in, that was a whole different thing, because they wanted California for the gold. And so they actually like made some kind of legislative bill that brought California in, just like that. And that, yeah, because they needed it and they wanted it and they were like going for the gold. So every state has a different story. So again, we're just following West Virginia, and that's what we're doing. Julie. It's going to be very similar to begin. Yeah, property taxes, all the same stuff, but it will be allocated differently, right?
What's to stop billionaires from taking control?
Great question. I don't know. It's a very great question, because, like, what's to stop, you know, the elite or the billionaires from hijacking the movement? For all I know, it's already been hijacked. I don't know. That's a great question. But I can tell you, they're not going to go quietly, right? I mean, we're the richest state in the union. So again, coming back to timing, a couple things have to happen. One, old California has to collapse, which is happening. Two, we're going to need the support of somebody like Trump, who's in office. And he's already basically told us he will support this. So we'll see if that happens, but it's timing. And we're just kind of trying to get the timing correct.
What's the specifics on Trump? How did he say he would support this?
Well, let's just say there are people, well, all of us in the 50-plus counties that are on the legislature have all signed non-disclosures, okay? We've signed non-disclosure agreements, yes, to prevent infiltration, okay? So I'm limited to how much I can say about that. Not that I have a lot of knowledge about that, only that I know our people have been talking to his people. He knows about us. He even obliquely agreed to come to one of our conventions down in Southern California, but it got canceled at the last minute. They were negotiating with the security teams and things like that. So he didn't end up showing up. But that's to the level of support we're talking about. So there's big movement with big players on this California thing. It could happen. Could happen. Yeah. Okay, so that's it. I'm going to bring one more thing I want to say. One more thing, because I have the mic. Yes. I started a website a long time ago called nightspirit.com. It's on my hat. Night Spirit, K-N-I-G-H-T, spirit.com. And, you know, I've been posting stuff to it for a long time. It's got some 2,500 posts on there or something. Well, one day I got on Google Analytics and suddenly realized I'm getting like 1,000 hits a day on this website. And I had no idea. So I'm paying a lot more attention to it now, and so I threw up some merchandising. So I wanted to just share that with you guys, because we were talking about how hard it is to get people to wake up. And so I have some cool mugs on there that you could serve to somebody that is maybe a little asleep, that might look at it and go, well, what's that, right? This one's about going down the rabbit hole. Here's one that says, pass them around. All lies will be revealed, and it lists all the things. So I have a bunch of these memes that I've put on mugs. Hats you can get, embroidered hats. Like this one says, what if you learned that everything you believe is a lie? Right? And so you could just wear that, right? And somebody might see it and just ask you about it. So it's a way to just get people to start thinking.
All right. The rabbit hole, right? New California, maybe that's a way through. And what I really appreciate about what New California is doing too is they're taking action to actually learn how this legislation works, how this process works, how the political system works. When we are truly ready for real change, whether or not we need to split the states, whether or not we need to, real change is coming. Real change is coming for California. And this is practice too. It's good practice. We need people to be ready to stand up and take those positions.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vineyards where the grapes of wrath are stored. He hath loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on.